the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. On this fourth Sunday after Pentecost, we continue the commemoration of the various saints of the Church. If you recall, the first group that we did on the first Sunday after was the saints from various nations, many different nations. Last week we saw the commemoration of the martyrs of the Church. And I said to you that it's not even possible to have the Eucharist to serve Holy Communion without the relics of martyr saints on the altar table. And I showed you how we have that. This week I want to concentrate about another group of saints, which are called the ascetic fathers and mothers, the God-bearing fathers and mothers. Now, this division between saints is not perfect. There are, of course, martyrs which are ascetics, and ascetics which are martyrs, and all sorts of things like that. But nevertheless, it is a group that is singled out in various ways. Who are these ascetic fathers and mothers? Who are these God-bearing mothers and fathers of the Church? Most of them, but not all, most of them are monastics, in the sense that they left the world to be alone with God. That's the word mono, the Greek prefix, mono, be alone, be one with. And that's the whole meaning of monasticism, to be alone with God. They went into various places and began a life of struggle. Struggle against what? What are they struggling against? Well, summarizing it, Christ gave us a demonstration of that when he went up onto the mountain just before he started his mission on earth to pray, and was tempted from three different angles by the evil one. And St. John the theologian, in his letters to the Christians, writes that these three things can be summarized as lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. What's that? What's lust of the eyes? It basically involves anything that one desires, any sort of possession, houses, cars, furniture, clothing, money, you name it. Anything that you want to possess and have and consider that as earthly riches is bound up in that lust of the eyes. What about lust of the flesh? It's a good one. Lust of the flesh. Anything to do with fleshly comforts and pleasures. Obviously eating, but eating well, eating like gastronomical, really, nice, delicious food. All the sexual things fall into that group. All those things to do with bodily comforts, warmth and coolness and all those sorts of things. The trying to escape from any sort of pain and all those sorts of things. All to do with lust of the flesh and pride of life. Pride of life. Well, when the demon tempted the Holy One, the Lord, he took him to a high point and said, jump off, and your angels will carry you up. In other words, he was tempting the Lord to show off his greatness and his holiness. Pride of life, to be famous, to show off, to have a name amongst others about you. Or, so and so is such a good person, he does all these wonderful things. Everybody seeks that, to have that sort of fame. So these ascetic fathers and mothers ran away from the earth, from the world, into desert or wilderness places in order to escape those three things. And those three things, by the way, are always a good mind jogger when you come to confession. Think about it. You come to confession and you're thinking about what I did, this and that. Just think of it. Lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. Think about those, whatever you fell in those regions. It's a mind jogger. there is a more detailed one. As our spiritual father said, when you come to confession on a regular basis, you're sort of dusting off, dusting off the rubbish on the soul. But if you're coming for a real detailed one, use what they call the 20 toll houses. The toll houses is actually a very unfortunate title. It's really not toll houses. What it is the preliminary judgment of a person when they repose. In other words, when a person dies, all the deeds that they committed, good and bad, are put before them and assessed. And as it says in the writings of Apostle Paul, that those that are of no use are burnt as in fire. They're sort of destroyed. The ones that are positive towards their salvation are kept. That's not the final judgment, because the deeds of a person still live on. If a person dies, their deeds still live on, good or bad. It's easy to see that. That's why nobody has their final state, except the Mother of God, of course, known after their repose. The toll houses, 20 of them, are included in one of our prayer books. Something like 100 mind joggers if you're coming to a very serious confession. Pages and pages of them. We'll look at that later. And there are some things there that you probably will be shocked to realise are sinful inclinations. I remember my spiritual father saying he went to his confessor once to confess these things. And the confessor said, I noticed you didn't say anything about stealing. I said, oh, Father, I didn't steal. Nothing. I didn't steal. Not even a candy bar. Nothing. I didn't steal a thing. Okay, well, you write things, don't you? And you give sermons, and you talk to people about something. Where do you get all these ideas from? Are they all yours? What you stealing from others that have given them to you? Oh, yes. What's it called in scientific terms? Plagiarism. Yes. It's stealing.
Intellectual properties.
Hey?
Intellectual property.
Yeah. It's stealing. It's a form of stealing. Not your faults. You got them from somewhere else, and you didn't recognise that you got them from somewhere else. We stole them. You didn't give the justice to whom it came from. Anyway, these ascetic fathers and mothers, through these struggles, and by the way, they also are in a form of martyrdom, in the sense that when you have these struggles against the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, lust of the pride of life, that is a martyrdom, because you are crucifying yourself to purge yourself of that fallen nature. You remember Father Seraphim Rose when he became Orthodox, and he was a person with a very high IQ. He said, in order for me to understand the truth, which is not of this world, I had to crucify my mind. It's a very hard thing to do for a person who's very intellectual and very sharp-witted, to all of a sudden subdue that wit and put it aside and realise that they have to accept the heavenly realm and not the earthly one. I pointed out to you last time, or the week before, about how we commemorate some of the saints on the prosper. If you remember, this centre part is the one that we sanctify, that becomes the flesh of the Lord. That's the only one you commune with. But these 9 ones here, the first one that we take a particle out is for the forerunner and the angels. The second one is for the holy prophets of the Old Testament. Third one for the apostles. The fourth one for all the hierarchs of the church, holy hierarchs. This one, which we spoke about last week, is the martyrs of the church. And the 6th one here is these ascetic fathers and mothers of the church. And we name them. Those that are close to us, we name them. And all these little particles that are outside do not get communed. They get put into the chalice, into the blood of the Lord, after the communion, and that helps the those that were commemorated in that. Insofar as these monasticism is concerned, it seems to be, from what I understand, and all the things that have been thrown around by Orthodox people in the air, much confusion there as well. For example, I just read the other day that the Ecumenical Patriarch is going to start a monastery in Switzerland or something. I mean, you don't start monasteries. You know what I mean? It's not a retirement home for a hierarch or something like that. What's a monastery? An individual, or a few individuals, which leave the world and go into this wilderness to struggle. And that's the monastery. And if others see that and want to join that, they come and join. And so the monastery grows, you see. It's not an institutionalized things like the Papists believe. You know, they go around, they start these monasteries, you know, the Carmelite or the Franciscans and all this, and you know, it's sort of a bit weird. Institutionalized monasticism is sort of like an oxymoron that's contrary to what monasticism really is all about. And there are three general forms. First one, Cenobitic monastery. These are the big monasteries that have grown from one or two people into hundreds, into thousands sometimes. You go to Mount Athos, especially the Russian one, they had several thousand monastics at one stage, St. Quintinians. And these are the sort of monasteries where it's very good for beginners to go. Why? Because it's so hard, that's why. They really get beaten up. You know, I remember the first time I went to a Cenobitic monastery in New York, and after the services we had dinner, and everybody goes and sits on benches near on the table. So I went and sat on a bench, not knowing that people had particular places to sit. So as the monks came out, they just kept pushing me along, you know, pushing me along till you fall off the bench. You know, it's a pretty humbling sort of thing. So you got to get up and then look around, and you know, unless somebody comes and rescues you or takes you to where the pilgrims are supposed to be. Anyway, in those Cenobitic monasteries, the novices that come are given all sorts of, well, you could say, unpleasant work to do, you know, cleaning toilets and, you know, mowing grass and growing things and looking after animals if there are any and all those sorts of things. But that is to curb their will, because that will is the thing that gets in the way for you to attain that holiness that you need, to obtain that Christ-likeness. The second type of monasticism, which is called skit, many say that's the sort of the gentlest and the best form. It's usually 2, 3, maybe 4 brothers or sisters which go and live in the wilderness in separate little huts or houses, but within sort of a stone's throw from each other. Okay? And they get together on major feast days to serve together, but on normal days they just pray to them in their own little establishment. And whenever there is something important to do, they get the blessing one from the other. Like our spiritual father and Father Seraphim, who founded the Platina Monastery, that was a skit monasticism, St. Herman of Alaska in Platina. It's sort of grown now, it's almost a Cenobitic one, but nevertheless. And the final one, which is the hardest of all, and which is absolutely not recommended for beginners and even intermediates, is the hermitage, the hermetic, where one person goes out by themselves, away from anybody, and struggles. And why is it dangerous? Because that's so easy to fall and nobody there to get you up. And the demonic realm hates that type of life. and will do all sorts of things. And many of the Holy Fathers that you read about, you can read about their experiences when they went out by themselves and all the things that they experienced, even being beaten up by demons. You know, I mean, it sounds stupid, but yes, that happened in our times as well, beaten up by demons. So those are sort of things that you keep in mind, that the monasticism comes to us in those forms by individuals, creative people, inspired people, not by hierarchs starting a monastic institution. Oh, ridiculous. And it's there in order that a person wants to be alone with God and wants to dedicate their life to that sort of struggle outside of anything else. Some people say, oh, marriage and monasticism, marriage versus monasticism. No, it's nothing to do with that. It's not a contradictory thing. It's not one against the other. Two are acceptable paths to salvation. The two of them require major struggles, spiritual and physical, in order to purge your own will from the pride that lives in that, and to try and come to Christ in the sense of marriage, where two become one and help each other. And in the monastic realm, where the person actually becomes like the angels. And that's a trick, of course, because the demons are also angels, fallen angels. So, and that's why being alone by one in a monastic environment is exceptionally difficult. In any case, that's about all I wanted to say today. We are 1 week left before the end of Apostles' Fast. Next Sunday is Apostle Peter of Paul according to the church calendar. I hope you can all come to celebrate that feast day. And just to remind you that we're not condemning anybody who might be using the calendar of the world, other than they're being deprived. That's all you can say, they're being deprived. But comes 2024, 4 years from now, they will have no Apostles' Fast. It's a very good indicator. Which is rather sad, because saints and angels have written services for us that we're supposed to uphold, and sort of to trash that just like that is rather a sad thing. But in any case, God help you in all these struggles and protect you, and we'll go on with the service.